Hey guys, Chris here. Tonight we have an interview and a story, and what's common between these two are that they're with solo hikers at night, and these are face-to-face encounters. That's next. I just started using Factor meals. These meals are made by gourmet chefs and are delivered right to your front door and cook in 2 minutes, which saves me a lot of time. I love not having to cook and do dishes. Not only does Factor use premium ingredients, it's healthy and organic. I've tried the sun-dried tomato chicken with zucchini and noodles, really good. Also, I've tried the Gourmet Plus meal of roasted garlic, filet mignon, and shrimp. Amazing. What a great way to do dinner. So head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code BASECAMPCHRIS50 to get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month of orders. That's code BASECAMPCHRIS50 at factor75.com to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month of orders. Okay guys, I am in the Sierra Nevada tonight. I'm in one of my favorite places, which is just below Abbott's Pass, which is up this way. And I got this really wonderful pond behind me with these towering rock towers. And we have an interview with one of our viewers. Her name is Anna, and she's from Pennsylvania. And she went on an evening hike at a place called Ridley Creek State Park. This is a regular place that she would go hiking, and it got dark on her, and she's going to tell about what happened to her when she was heading back to her car. Pretty wild story. Also, after that, I'm going to be doing some hiking during the interview, and then I'm going to be telling a story about a teenage runaway who had a similar type encounter.
Is this Anna?
Yeah. Chris?
Hi, Anna. This is Basecamp Chris from YouTube.
Oh, my gosh. That's incredible. How you doing?
Doing good. Yes. Yeah, it sounds like you had an encounter or something. You saw something. But
that was crazy.
Yeah, where are you from?
I'm just outside of Philadelphia, Delaware County, about a half an hour out.
Okay.
Yeah, there's actually an entire valley. I grew up next to a valley, this isn't where that happened, but there's actually, I would guess it's a pod. Is that what they call them? A family?
Mm-hmm.
Living in there.
I'm not even sure. I would just say family, but a pod would work.
That's what
they
I don't
usually
know.
refer pod to whales.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense to me. But, yeah, there was definitely a family living there because there was so many. I've had over 25 incidences in my lifetime,
Really?
and they weren't all alone. I had, other people with me, even my daughter, my husband.
Okay.
Crazy stuff. But this one, I was alone. I love your channel.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I really appreciate you watching my channel. It's amazing how many people have had their own experiences, however, small or whatever. But there's been a lot of people with a lot of things that have happened. And there's always kind of a consistent thread to them. They're within this range of things that happen or activities. So yeah. So where did this take place?
So this was at a place called Ridley Creek State Park. It's in Pennsylvania. It's also in Delaware County. And there's a couple of pull-offs where you can just park, and there's a trail there. It was nighttime. I don't know what time, but it was late, probably like 11 something. It was summer or spring because of the leaves. I'm trying to recall all this.
What year was this?
I think like 1994. I had been working a lot, and I used to be in the woods all the time because my parents, half their property was this part of that valley of woods with a creek at the bottom.
Okay.
So I was always used to being in nature. And, you're a little kid, latchkey kid, and you tell your mom you're bored, well, go outside and play, right? You did, right? You're climbing trees and playing in the creek and making stuff and, just having fun, being in nature. So I hadn't been in the woods in a long time. Well, I had an experience when I was a kid that I was like totally forgot about. My subconscious must have remembered, because I always had this fear ever after of being in the woods, but I couldn't connect it. Why? And what had happened as a little kid was, this is right below my parents' house, was playing in the creek, and I was only like 7. And all of a sudden, everything went silent. And the hairs on the back of my neck and part of my back stood up. And I got really, like, scared to death, and I turned my right real fast, and I looked. And I just saw a flash, a blur of brown jump over a fallen tree. And it was a large fallen tree, probably about 3 feet-ish high. But I saw a clear arm, hand, leg, foot, saw it, and it scared the hell. And I had to run past it to get to my house.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, right. Well, hell, I ain't hanging out, right? Bare feet. I fell. And when I fell, because you're that scared you can't control your limbs. You're that scared. I'm booking up the hill, and I fell. And when I fell, my right hand, my thumb, landed on one of those old Coke bottles. The bottom was there, and there was a shard of, a pointed shard. And it almost cut my thumb off. Oh, and, of course, I screamed bloody murder. And the day became about my thumb. I never told anybody about what I saw, but my brain remembered. And so for years, I was always, like, kind of nervous about going back in the woods. And I would always try and talk myself, just stop being a baby, stop being a baby, stop being a baby. So now I'm like an adult, and I'm like, you just got to get over this already, right? Just get over it. So I pull over at the worst time in the world. It's like 11-something at night. Nobody's out, and nobody's coming out, And I pull over to this section where it's really like uneven ground. I got this big old Oldsmobile Tornado. And they had recently moved the path, which was really odd. They only moved it about 150 feet, maybe. But it was like, why would you just move a path? That's strange.
They rebuilt it, you mean?
Yeah, they changed it. Don't know why, right?
Okay.
Never figured that one out at all. But it was closer to the creek. So they had one of those, metal gates. You walk around the side. And on the right, just on the other side of the gate, was this bush, probably about maybe like 12, 15 feet tall. But it had like little leaves on it. I don't know what kind of bush, but it was right next to the creek. And I hear this, I get out of the car and I shut the door, and I hear these leaves shaking, really, really shaking. And I'm like, what in the world? I'm just thinking it's a deer, and it's in the bush, and it's, for some reason, it's having a hard time getting out of the bush. And then I hear like a splash in the water. But I just figure it's a deer, right? I scared it. It's taken off. So I'm like, okay, Anna, just chill, just chill. Just do this walk, get over the hump, and then you'll be good to go. I'm trying to talk to myself, right? Little pep talk, bravery, right? And then, so I start walking. Now, I only get about, I'm going to say, like, maybe 200 feet into the path, not more than 250. And then I start to realize it's a super quiet night. All I hear is the stream. And there's no birds, there's no crickets, there's nothing. And all of a sudden, and like when you're looking, you're trying to adjust your eyesight. My eyes were trying to adjust. Now, it was a full moon, but there were some clouds. And every once in a while, a cloud would block the moon, and it would become pitch black. And it was like, ooh, I don't like that, right? That's creepy. I start to adjust my eyesight, and I'm looking at the path in front of me. And now there's a cloud over the moon, and I can't see. But I get this horrific feeling of dread. I just feel sick to my stomach. This isn't fear. This is terror. Oh, crap. And now I'm afraid I'm not going to make it back to the car. But it's dark out. You can't see anything, right? So it's
Did you have a flashlight or anything?
No. I stop. Just stop. And I turn around and I start walking back to the car. And I see, it's a quick walk, right? And then all of a sudden, that same bush, there's a violent shaking again. And I'm like, what? Twice? How can that be? That's weird, right? And all of a sudden, I look over, and there's these 3 sets of red eyes. And I'm like, what? I literally stop right in front of it. I might be like 4, maybe 5 feet in front of it. And there's this huge set to the left, and they were like rectangles with the corners cut off. And there's a medium set, same deal. And then there's this sort of like oval set with like kind of points in the center and on the outside edge, a lot smaller. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, what the hell is that? I'm thinking, raccoon? No. Definitely not a possum. I've seen possums. No, it's not a possum. And I'm like tilting my head, and I'm scratching, and I'm really thinking to myself, what the hell? And it looks like, when someone's pissed off at you? Squint their eyes. The big one and the middle one were doing that, but mostly the big one on the left. Oh, that looks like anger. The animals make that expression? And then all of a sudden, I get this, realization, there's no effing animal that you know of. You know the animals. You've been in the woods your whole life. You got out of here. And, my gut sinks. It felt like my throat dropped into my stomach. And all of a sudden, I'm thinking, I'm about to die. That's why it's so quiet. This is an apex predator. Crap. And I'm thinking bear, right? And I'm scared to death. Now I'm trembling. I'm like, I can't breathe right. I'm shaking telling you this. Just remembering is like, oh my God. I try to get back to the car. Again, I'm shaking. I'm trying to get my keys out of the pocket. And I'm shaking so bad I can't get the key in the lock. And all of a sudden, that hair stood up again. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die. I'm like, just get the damn key in the car. Just get your damn key in the car, Stick it in. I'm fumbling. It's not going in right. And it feels like something's behind me. I don't hear anything. I don't smell anything. But some part of me must have known it was nearby somewhere. I would have put $5 at least. It was behind me. I was so scared. And so I get in the car, I lock the doors. I look around. I don't see anything. And I'm just like, get out of here, And I gun it, man. And it's like, spraying rocks wherever. I hope I sprayed rocks on it. It's just scared the crap out of me, man. I've never been the same.
How tall was this?
I can say 8 or 9 foot. Was
for the one, set. And then there was 2 others. What were the 2 others?
And then the other one was shorter, about probably maybe 10 inches or so, lower than the one on the left. Somewhere around there, and I'm trying to go by memory, right? And then the little one was close, like when you hold a baby, and it's in your arm, and it's close to the chin.
What were you seeing in the bushes as far as the eyes? What was it?
They're bright red.
What color?
Bright.
Bright red.
Those reflectors on bicycles, or a car, the red light on the back of the car. They were really bright.
Wow.
And the crazy thing is they were really expressive. And when someone's pissed off, you're like, whoa, right? You kind of back up. That's not just anger, it's fear. And it's afraid of me, but it's also angry at me. And I got to get out of here. And I could see the big one and the middle one I'm just going to call it the mom because it's holding the baby. She would look at him. You could see like how her, and even so pitch black, you could see how like the shape of the eye would change. Like she would look a little bit to the right. So they're in front of me. The big one's on the left, the middle one to the right of that. Yeah, so they're really super bright red. And, that's just not something you really see in nature. I mean, usually, like, you'll see a round sun, like the way the sun or a flashlight will, glisten off the back of an eyeball of something. Eyes. I mean, I'm going to say the one eyeball of the really big one was probably, I'm going to say like 1, 2, 3, 4, between 5 and 6 inches across.
Oh my
It was
God.
huge. It was huge. You can't mistake.
Wow.
You couldn't walk past it without seeing it. It felt like my throat just dropped into my gut. It was hard to breathe. I felt complete terror. And, the hair on the top of my back and my neck were just spiked up. And it was like, and oh my God.
Okay, you guys, I found a nice spot to do the story, and there's a lovely view. The sun is going down really quickly. I think we can get the story, and I do have some lights if I need them, but I'd rather not have to use them tonight. I got a rogue bat squatch, hazy India pale ale. Say that 3 times fast. There we go. That is a good one. Here is what the can says. For years, rumors have circled that deep in the woods on Mount St. Helens lives the fabled bat squatch. While there are many tales of bat squatch, they are all a bit hazy on the details, which makes the truth such a juicy mystery. So what a better way to honor the legend than with a hazy, juicy IPA, perfect for camping and potentially making a new friend. I don't know if I want to make that my friend tonight, so all right, let's get to the cracking this beer open. Oh, it's kind of fun when it's sudsy outside because I can blow it off like that. Don't do that in your home. That's all right. Let's see if we can get this in the cup. I'm always going. There we go. All right. Bat Squatch Hazy India Pale Ale. Woo! That's a strong beer. That is a 6.7 ABV on that. Boy, it's not super bitter on the aftertaste. It's got the hazy kind of almost fruity flavor. Really tasty, almost tropical, citrus. Just a little bit of bitterness to it, and I don't know. It's pretty strong if you like IPAs. So there you go. Cheers. So our story takes place in 1971 with a teenager, 15-year-old girl named Melanie. She went by Mel. And Mel lived in Southern California. And at this point in her life, at this time, she was very rebellious. She was hanging out with the wrong crowd. She was skipping school. She was doing drugs. And she did not want her parents telling her anything, telling her what to do. And so she was resenting her parents and feeling like she's not able to live the life that she wants to live. And so she decided to split, as she called it, to just leave. And unfortunately for her, she couldn't see herself for who she was. She was being very selfish, and she looks back on it years later, and she left her parents, and they didn't know where she was and where she was going, and she really regretted that, looking back on it later. She got a small backpack, sleeping bag, and any belongings that she thought she needed, and she started hitchhiking from Southern California, just heading north. Really no direction outside of she's just going to head north, but she had no plans. After about 5-6 days of getting rides with these low-life people and having just really scary experiences hitchhiking, it's really not a good way to go. And back in the 70s, late 60s, that was kind of how a lot of people traveled. Really crazy. But she was starting to feel the effects of her decisions on her life. She was really starting to feel this sadness come over her about her decisions and where she was at. She ended up meeting this young guy, he was 17, at a truck stop. Seemed like a really nice guy. And she just hung out with him for the evening, and they shared a meal in the restaurant and just talked about things. And he was on a similar kind of plan as her, just hitchhiking and kind of seeing the country. And he decided the next day that he was going to continue east, and she decided she was going to continue heading north, deeper into Northern California. That day, late in the afternoon, she got dropped off on this county road somewhere in northwestern California near the coast, very thick forest, and she misjudged her timing and her location because she was in between these two small towns about 15 miles apart. And she was on the side of the road, and it was starting to get dark, and it was misting and starting to rain. Each side of the highway was flanked with thick forest. There was no rides coming, it was getting dark, and she didn't want to be hitchhiking after dark. That was kind of her thing. She didn't do that. And so she thought, the best I can do is head off into the forest, find a large tree, and make a makeshift camp underneath it. So she went off the road, down into this thick forest, and it was very intimidating. Seeing some redwoods and these smaller trees, and now it's misting and she's getting wet and she's just feeling miserable. She found this good-sized tree, found this bough of the tree, big branch, and she put her sleeping bag underneath it, packed some pine needles around that, and then she got some big branches, laid them on either side just to make some kind of a shelter, almost like a visual shelter, just so you feel more comfortable. And she was so exhausted, she laid in her sleeping bag and she fell asleep. She woke up, she wasn't sure, she didn't have a watch, but she woke up what she guessed was a couple hours later. There was no sound, there was nothing that woke her up. And she had this small flashlight that was attached to her belt loop, pulls it out, and she scanned this little clearing in front of her makeshift camp. She didn't see anything. It was kind of all clear. The woods are really quiet. It's pitch black. She was glad to have the flashlight. It's like, okay. Turns it off. Pulls out her pocket knife, flips it open. She didn't even know why. She just did it almost without thinking. Had this pocket knife, then laid back in her sleeping bag, fell asleep for the second time. About an hour after that, she heard some branches breaking, something breaking branches just outside her camp somewhere. In kind of a panic, she finds a flashlight again, and she shines it in this clearing. And off to her left, just outside of these trees, she sees this big black tree trunk, or what she thought was a tree trunk. And then she realized there was no tree trunk there before, when she woke up earlier and when she first made her camp. And then she shined the light up, and she could see this face of this large, she called it a gorilla-type creature. That was her first thought, this gorilla-type creature covered in black hair, standing there motionless, staring right at her. She had the flashlight and she was standing at this point. She was so startled she fell backwards over the branches that she'd put around her sleeping bag and dropped the flashlight, and she could see that the eyes on this thing were glowing red without the aid of the flashlight reflecting off them. She said this thing was massive. She's 5'4". This thing was twice her height, covered in black hair, and just standing there 15 feet away, staring at her, not even moving. In an absolute state of fear, she got up and started running, not knowing where the road was. She was all disoriented. It was pitch black. The flashlight was still on the ground, and she's running through the forest, not knowing where the road is or if this thing is behind her. She can feel the branches hitting her face. She's got her arms out in front just to kind of block anything that might hit her in the face. She's going as fast as she can through this forest. She trips over this log, face plants into this marshy area, gets up and just starts running blindly into the night. Terrifying. She can't hear anything behind her. She goes through this thicket of trees and ends up out on the highway. It's still pitch black, and she just turns and starts running down the highway. Still can't see anything. As she's running, she can hear this truck up ahead coming. Doesn't see the lights yet. And then after a few moments, she sees lights hitting these trees off to the right, which means there's a big curve up ahead, and this truck was on the left coming, and it turned and it was coming now straight towards her. She's running down the middle of the highway, waving her arms back and forth like this, trying to get the attention of this driver. Now mind you, the road is wet. This semi-truck is heading straight for her, and as she's running towards this truck, she goes off to the side slightly, just knowing she could get killed by this truck if it doesn't stop. And she starts jumping up and down, waving her arms, trying to get the attention of this truck driver. This semi-truck came to a complete stop at a slight angle, and then the driver's side door opens up, and out drops this elderly man carrying a tire iron. And he walks towards Melanie, and he says, "What's wrong? What the heck are you doing out here?" She runs towards him, and she briefly describes what happened. And then he says, "Okay, where's your stuff? Where's your belongings?" And she said, "They're still back in the forest." And he says, "You're not going back there, get in the truck." And she listened to him, so she got up, got in the truck, and they started driving. She was relieved that she got help and got a ride. And she explained what had happened, and he didn't know what to say about that, but he was glad that he was there to help. And then they just started driving and talking, and about her situation, and about life, and about family. And they drove all night, and the next morning the sun was coming up, and this truck driver pulls into a truck stop, and he buys her breakfast, talks to her some more about her plans and about her life, and he says, "You know what, I'm going to buy you a shower here," because she hadn't had a shower in about a week, so she got a shower. And then she came out, and he said, "You know what I'm going to do?" He said, "I'm going to buy you a bus ticket, and I hope you use it and go home and be with your family and work things out with them. And I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I'm going to recommend that." And she listened to him. And so she went home, worked it out with her family, and she was really glad she did. She just was not in a good place, but she remembered and always remembered the creature and the truck driver, because she felt that they were sent to her as a wake-up call. And wake up she did, is what she said. So that is our story about Melanie in Northern California when she was 15. And I got the sun is almost set here. This is kind of a, I don't know, it's not creepy. I don't know if eerie's the word. It's very quiet right now. I'm in this bowl. Can you guys see this? There's a bowl right here. And because of this bowl, there's this tremendous echo. And I'm gonna do one sound for you. I'm not gonna do much, but one whoop. Hope you can hear this. Whoop! Wow, that's crazy. It's just going around this towering cliffs and this little mini basin here. Really crazy. All right, I'm gonna pack my stuff up and then I'm gonna hike back to the car. I got a little ways to go. I think we're gonna beat the sun going down, but I don't know. But I do have some lights that I brought with me. So fortunately, I have the lantern and the headlight. So let's do it. All right, you guys, I'm getting close to the road. I got a couple hundred yards here, maybe, to the Abbott's Pass Road. Crazy country up here. This road is closed down in the winter. It's such a remote and small road. It's paved, but it's very small. So, all right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that, the interview and the story, and me fumbling around the forest here. At night, just about another 5 minutes, it's going to be pitch black where I'm at. So, and I'm at an angled slope here. It's very technical here to walk. All right, well, guys, thank you for watching, and we will see you on the next one. And appreciate the comments as always. As always, keep hiking.